Let's get down to business. DonArtie versus Striker. We got some AoE3 versus AoE2 and AoE4. All the numbers, Lidakor. But the only number that matters is who's going to have 2 at the top of the screen first. We're still in round of 16, folks, which means only best of 3s. Not as deep as maybe some of these players would like. And in fact, this type of format could favor a player like Striker more than it maybe should. Striker, of course, hasn't maybe logged as many hours in AoE4 as DonArtie has. And I think DonArtie would appreciate being in the BO5s already so he can flex that bigger civ pool.
Do you know what else Striker did not commit that much time to? Reading the rulebook, ladies and gents, because he pops out the yellow color when players are specifically told to play blue and red.
No, not just that. Guys, how has he done this? How is he HRE and Roos? Wait a sec.
What?
He got bamboozled by the color. He's not HRE. He's Roos.
I was about to praise him for at least having a consistent color with his civilization, but then boo. That's what he gets for that. I mean, he should be red for the Roos. Well, such is life. We're gonna be rocking with the yellow here.
I feel bad for the person doing like that overlay. They probably did get bamboozled by the fact that he was playing yellow. Like, yeah, yellow's HRE. It just makes sense, guys. It's like, when you see red, it's English, right?
So, a little behind the scenes info here for the audience, because I guess this is the last chance for us to tell you this here in Road to Red Bull Wololo Legacy. The overlay we are using is essentially an updated version of what we used in Golden League. And back in Golden League, players didn't have the chance to pick colors, so the overlay was only designed to be able to pick blue or red. So, as you can see at the top of the screen, we're kind of puzzled when it comes to using yellow, simply because the overlay can't really acknowledge that, I guess.
Yeah, you know, that's actually giving me a great idea again, Lidakor. I'm on a roll today. Hear me out. Team tournament, where every 2 minutes, for 2 minutes, gray scale kicks in. All the color disappears from the screen, so you don't know which units are yours, which units are enemies. Amazing, all right? I think that's the future of competitive play. All right, I'm just going to lay it out there. Any TOs want to get in contact and run this event, I'm down to troll 24/7. I think it would be an amazing event. In fact, Lidakor, maybe you should run another 3v3 with that.
Well, I feel like I would rely on my ideas instead of yours, though. But to be honest, you could actually reach out to Drongo and try this with FFA.
I'm pretty sure the community at this point is no, God, no. If me and Drongo get together with these type of ideas that we both have, I think people are going to have an aneurysm.
All right, back we go to this set over here. So far, decent job from DonArtie to deny bounty from his opponent. Only 210 bounty in the bank for Striker. That's going to mean that he won't have access to the wheelbarrow here as he's going up the feudal. Definitely a big punch in the stomach here early game.
It strips away options, right? So usually the cool thing about getting wheelbarrow so early is it gives you the flexibility to go towards a greedy TC placement or towards a boar. Boars probably were on the table, although a little bit risky in this game because it's a French matchup, but we have seen players ambitiously plow out towards the boar and die because of it. Typically, though, most Roost players, when they're up against French, will choose to just go onto the deer with a secondary TC, and there is a juicy deer placement to the other side of that wood line.
Yeah, I would love to see a TC there if you think about that. We also talk about this a lot. Having a town center at the edge of the map makes it much more difficult for the opponent to raid you, and that applies particularly when you're up against knights. So that is a prime TC spot out there for Striker if he doesn't want to go for the boars. If he wants to, though, both of those boars are situated to the right side over here, kind of in a neutral ground midfield. So he could opt to go for either, but you probably have the impression that the far right one could be also a decent candidate for a safe either TC expansion or just a safe tower expansion towards that.
Yeah, it's just you can't do it without having mid-map control already, right? The cool thing about being the Roos is you have multiple scouts, so you can actually kind of clear a path in terms of vision. The risk is just you know you're going to be up against French cavalry. That's always the issue. We've actually seen games that have ended in despair for a Roos player because they went for a TC extension on a boar, and the knight was just there, and it ended the game, right? Like, I recall a few on the road to Wololo where it went that way, and those were with boars closer to their base. So imagine how dead you'd be trying to walk out to a mid-map board that's actually closer to the French base.
Yeah, for sure. That is almost suicidal. You could take a gamble, hoping that your opponent won't find you, but especially because DonArtie is operating with 2 scouts right now, there's a decent chance that Don would probably find that expansion and intercept it with knights it's too risky for Striker, and it's not a risk that he has to go for, given how good of a town center spot he could have to the south on that deer.
There's a little tricky micro coming out there from Striker, trying to optimize to get one of the scouts. And okay, so much for the optimization. Wasn't paying that much attention to what happened next. He does at least have the key info though, so DonArtie is going for a secondary TC. Likely he'll drop it on the deer near that stone outcropping. And naturally, Striker should just look to get enough gold together, not only to push his own knights, but to also go for his own TC afterwards.
And you see DonArtie, he has scouted the deer spots, and he's going straight away towards those. He knows fully well that this is the prime spot for the TC. I wouldn't be surprised to see this knight camp this location for some time, hoping that villagers will eventually come this way.
Wonder if he just wants to try and patrol to that gold line, though. I mean, maybe I'm just a greedy boy, Lidakor, but doesn't that Roost gold line look like it needs to be spanked? You know,
It does, but
sword.
he may not expect the Roost to be mining this much gold at the beginning, despite the fact that he sees the knights.
The knight's coming. The knight's coming. So he's mirroring the movement. This is good for Don. It means that he shouldn't actually get eradicated trying to build this TC up. And he gets rid of the scout as well, so riding in blind to begin with for Striker. But with a knight here, scout as well, it might be a little bit tricky, actually. Don could lose enough villagers that this could heavily delay his time. In fact, he could probably kill almost all the villagers here.
Yeah, this is good value out here. 2 villagers going down here, and this knight for Striker, he just doesn't care. He's gonna be sacrificed for the greater good, but that is 3 villagers being picked off. Great value for the 1 knight out there.
It's not just the 3 villages, it's the fact that you've actually drawn both knights from the French back home. So they're not even in a position to trade now. So this is actually really well played by Striker. In the meantime, he's got replacement knights already. He's going to be the tempo aggressor as it stands right now. And another awkward detail there for Artie. He probably loses additional villager because he doesn't have wheelbarrow. When he tried to peel to the south, his villager moved too slow to get far enough away that the knight couldn't go back for another kill.
Yeah, and in the end, DonArtie's TC here is gonna be delayed, but more importantly, as you said, the knights from DonArtie were pulled back, and this opens up a lot of options for Striker. For example, dropping that forward TC here, which probably wouldn't have been an option if DonArtie was the aggressor with the knights he had.
I don't think Striker intended to do that TC until he got knight confirmation back at home, because the issue he would have had is he had no wheelbarrow, right, up against French cavalry. So this was very much an informed play. Love it from Striker, though. And that's the power of the trade house, right? Is when you see an opportunity, you can instantly pounce on it like this. Like, oh, he made a mistake. He came back to defend. I'm going to buy 2 loads of stone. Insta drop a TC.
Oh, this is getting worse here for DonArtie, actually. He's the one to blink first. Going for the spearman already. Will not lose additional villagers here, but the idle time is massive.
Yeah, he's fortuitous that he didn't, but the problem is the knights are going to keep escalating, and he's somewhat spread out, actually. Like, this TC in the middle of no man's land is next to a stealth forest. Notice that he has to park a scout there. He has to keep vision in that area because town centers can't see the stealth forests, and if he doesn't have a scout in that area, these knights will keep cycling in and killing off his deer workers.
Yeah, and it's annoying because we talked about this so many times. In a knight v knight war, whoever blinks first, whoever goes to the spearman, is going to have a tough time. The spearmen, they will never be able to catch those knights, and you will just play catch, and you will never catch up to those knights really from Striker.
And Donster, he hasn't even got the blacksmiths yet, so he's not getting the free melee tech upgrade, yet he's building spears and knights. So just kind of not able to exploit the small details that should give him a slight one-up here. Right now, the knight count is staying in favor of Striker, and also the fact that he's on deer means he can keep this up indefinitely. In fact, I'd say he's a little bit better off for it because every once in a while, if his resources are stretched one way or the other, Trade House can make it easier on him with the beneficial 100 resources for 150 of another.
Easily. And do keep in mind, he also has the food gathering rate boost from the 2nd tier of bounty. So when you're pushing the similar types of units, that's also an edge to think about. And look at that. Not a single knight here to defend those villagers with many of the villagers already weak, possibly from previous raids. Nice reaction, though, from Don to save them, though.
Uh-oh. You say save them. There's no room in the inn. Looks like Striker is going to back away, but this is another issue. Once again, Don doesn't have wheelbarrow. In fact, something you'd think the French would be better off for isn't just the villager production speed being better than the Rus. Usually they'd have 1 or 2 of these eco upgrades, right? Because they're 30% cheaper. Look at Don's bar right now. Nothing.
Nothing at all. No survival techniques, no wheelbarrow, nothing. And that's also something that Striker has to be happy with, especially because he also has an extra boost here when it comes to wood gathering, thanks to the tower being on a wood line. So, economy-wise, Striker has to be happy with this.
Yeah, absolutely. especially when he just keeps getting in and being annoying. I mean, this scout gets cleaned up, but I don't want to say over. Actually, I do want to say overkill. Like, that's kind of like seeing someone bare arms, and the arms is a butter knife, and you decide to pull out a machine gun and mow them down. It's a slight overcalibration for just a scout. And it's once again DonArtie having these knights, but not doing anything aggressively with them.
At the very least, he's picking off the knights here from Striker. The problem is that Striker has no desire to keep these guys alive. All he wants to do is just do as much damage as he can.
The problem is there's
no
so
way.
many of them, right?
It's open. KP, it's open.
No, it's not. It's not.
It should be.
It's not. Because it's the end. It's the end pillar. You can delete those. The BS. The fake news, dude.
I have seen units sneaking past like that.
That one there?
I don't know for sure.
Fake news. Fake news.
Anyways, he's just gonna go directly in. Two more go down.
Yeah, this just in. Striker now has the eco lead. And DonArtie, I know it's a big chore, but at some point you have to wonder, is it worth walling all the way across on the east side?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that his front is still wide open, and the critical detail is the food eco for him. And in fact, the gold as well. Both of those are still wide open and ready to be raided.
Meanwhile, look at the comparative. Striker, the reason he doesn't need spears is what he done with his own base. There is only one entrance point, and it goes past the primary TC, so he'll see you. It's actually a really good read by Striker. And it means that you can go greedy into archers now because Donster stopped pushing mass knights. Like, he's being doubled up. He's too reliant on spears, and if there's something that the Roos can exploit, it's you being too reliant on spears because they get so much additional wood to work with.
Indeed, they are more than happy taking this fight over here. A couple of knights will be sacrificed, but off the back of this, Striker probably has a second strike force that flanks around to the right side. Indeed, it's a little difficult to see on the minimap, but there's a force on the right side ready to raid. This one, though, kind of thrown away here into the spears.
Yeah, I think he's getting a little bit distracted trying to micro the multiple groups, but the point is that if one group makes it through and he doesn't lose the other, worth. Even if he takes chip damage on the other group, it's what he's going to do to the economy that matters here. And you can see the desperation setting in. DonArtie has to play out into the ball. This is going to mean he's not defending at home. In fact, no one's here. He at least has vision to get out early. And Artie finally does have wheelbarrow, but that's going to be a lot of idle eco in the back of your base. And your army is completely away from home.
Yeah, this is some juicy pickups over there. Also, no textiles on those villagers. Oh, berry villagers will also get spotted.
All right, he's going to run away at least, so that's the good news. But it's idle eco in the meantime. And once again, Striker making sure you can't build a villager lead here. In fact, once again, Striker taking that lead.
And that is a big thing when you're playing Roos against the French. You would expect the French to have like 10% extra villagers over you, but when it's that even, you're more than happy with that. And do keep in mind, as we talked about this one, you still have the extra wood boost. You do have the food boost as well, so this is a really good spot to be in for Striker, although he's a little low on food, and that could be a source of concern in the coming minutes.
I guess they call him Striker because it's kind of like, you know, strike one, strike two, then you're out. It kind of feels like it's reaching that point. Like, every time these raids get through, the issue compounds itself. It just builds a bigger lead down the line for the main armies. One that he's looking to push now. Mass ball of archers pushing through means the spears can't contest, and it means the ball's going to be blocked out. That's one way to stop the knight, surround him on the berries, but now you've sacrificed the more important food income. Ball is superior to berry, but you're about to be berry dead.
And I love this one from Striker. He really is pulling apart DonArtie's eco right now. The moment he saw the knights heading to the north to try and deal with the raiders, he dove in under the tower, fought the villagers, picked off 3, and now he has the villager lead. He's slowly escalating his army count while also every once in a while chipping away with eco. And now we're looking at a 10, almost 12 population lead in the favor of Striker.
That was very composed out of Striker as well. I actually think he could have burnt down the outpost in time, but he wasn't willing to risk it for the biscuit. He realizes he has the lead and he doesn't want to throw it away. We do have to remember that both players are playing limited vision. In fact, Striker has no scouts at all. Someone I think he could calibrate here, like he's got a hunter cabin, right? Build an extra scout. It's so valuable in these situations. Flash. Love that bait. He aggroes him back, so the Knights are going to charge in, but they're not going to get the charge bonus damage because the Lancers are away. And now go for the reclash. Just baiting them in because it's melee comp versus range melee comp, which means that Striker can easily win these battles. In fact, he's dragging him in the base, and it feels like DonArtie is in for a penny, in for a pound, but in these choke points, archers will reign supreme because your spearmen can't get past the Knights. bad fight for DonArtie, and now he has to retreat.
And it looks like Striker is also getting away with some chip damage on those retreating forces. He actually wants to pursue. He is realizing that there is blood in the water and he can fight this one.
I mean, the Knight count's still in his favor. The Archibald is getting a little bit out of control here. Knight's also still once again getting in the backside. Oi. Another Knight almost going down for the Frenchies there. At least able to get rid of one of the Strikers. But keep in mind the Blacksmith upgrades, although they're a favor of DonArtie, Striker's getting the critical ones he needs. He's prioritizing range comp for good reason here, because he can afford a lot more of those than DonArtie can.
And do keep in mind that once you reach a critical mass of those archers, you will have so much of them that they can almost one-shot knights. And many of those knights are also heavily battered right now for DonArtie, because there was non-stop fighting going on, so DonArtie never really had the chance to heal them back up. So that archer bowl, despite the fact that DonArtie has knights on the field, is actually much more intimidating than it looks.
Clash around the board again. Knight's going to back up because look, the Lancers are about to go away. And when they do, no attack speed buff again. Spearman count isn't looking as healthy as it once was either. Spear's also now coming out for Striker. Means it's much harder for these heavy cavalry units to engage. It feels like this is the fight that he maybe needs, especially the way that Micro is coming out for Striker here. He's splitting up the Knights and he's picking them apart one by one. And as you said, with this many archers, he starts to strike hard into these Knights and take them down for free.
Yeah, and once the Knights are gone, this is all Rus battlefield. They'll be more than happy with the Spearman plus Archer spam. And look at that, Knights numbers, they're dropping for DonArtie.
The aggro switch is so important here. Every time these Knights keep coming back in range and peeling off, DonArtie's army chases them. So the archers aren't being harassed at all. They're unassailed. Like, it's a slow build, but it does matter. Like, slowly, DonArtie is being forced to invest more and losing more in these engagements.
Indeed, and behind this one, there's a 7 eco lead as well for Striker, slowly securing map control. And do keep in mind, DonArtie, his villagers on the board are still being threatened, and I feel a couple of villagers also fell there.
Yeah, it's still happening. Just look at the eco situation. The Rus player shouldn't be ahead in a 2TC versus 2TC. This Knight count, I mean, it's baby level now. It's struggling to get reinforcements out. Feels like a second layer of spears are coming in from Striker, which should clean up the remaining raw Knights. At which point, this Archibald right now for Artie isn't big enough to win these fights.
Yeah, a decent fight looking out here for Striker. He's really doing well with the Micro here, pulling back to the base when he feels intimidated. And as you said, Knight numbers are dropping for DonArtie. He's down to just 6. Numbers when it comes to Knights for Striker are also falling, but he's more than happy just playing this one with Spearmen and Archers.
It's the Archibald that matters right now. Like, Striker is going to have a lot more archery ranges operational than DonArtie. In fact, DonArtie stopped at 15 archers. He slowed down for a moment and just going to give an opportunity to recover. I think the key thing to just keep coming back to is that Striker can easily peel off Knights and go round onto your economy. You know, DonArtie, I don't know what it is with the French and appeasement, but to get some food and gold, look on the left side of his base. He walled himself in. That's how at risk he is. How often do you see a French player wall himself in like this?
Not much for sure, and we talk about this a lot. French, they rely very heavily on the pocket ecos. They're a tempo-aggressive civilization, and right now, you don't really see them being able to be aggressive because they are simply bumping into a brick wall out there of Striker's defenders. Now, Striker himself, he also needs to address his own eco because he has had a dozen of villagers idle under his town center. Idols over here on the right side as well. Almost 20 idols all across the map for him, so he was focusing a lot on microing. He needs to address his eco now.
Yeah, I don't know what they were doing out there. Were they thinking going boar? Because there wasn't a deer out there. There was never.
But he already took the boar. Maybe he got raided.
So, okay, so he was looking for safe wood, I guess. This is just weird. This is a very weird move when you've got like 2 fat wood lines at home. And oh no. So did he just big brain himself? He moved out here because he thought it was safer, right? And now DonArtie is going to find it all.
Oh, Don has 9 knights. He's got a lot of damage potential over here.
Look at the archers as well. Like, the archers are more important here because they can easily pick off the mass ball of villagers if they find them.
Yeah, but Don doesn't know. He's got no idea. He's got no scout accompanying that army. He's going for the boar, but he's actually going to miss the prime target, which are the lumberjacks to the south. And he's going to see the villagers on the boar, but, well, they'll be gone by the time he arrives. In fact, he could be trapped.
Yeah. Okay, so he's going to get out, and now you're maybe stuck. The army's coming in behind you as well. The problem is now he might maneuver south side and still spot out the villagers, so this could still backfire for Striker, but for the time being, archer count looking good. Knights moving in for the clash, but where are the spears? Where are the Knights? Where's the front line right now?
Yeah.
This is a bad fight for Striker.
Okay, there they come.
There's the second wave. They were so delayed, though. That could have been catastrophic. If DonArtie went straight in and identified it, he could have been on top of the archers, butchering them.
Oh, but look at the flank. He's going to pick off a couple of archers from the back as well.
Archers trying to do the damage they can. These Knights just have to keep peeling back, though, because the charges did go off, which means the bonus damage is out for French. And it feels like Striker should be maybe taking cleaner victories in these fights. Yeah, every time he's maybe hemorrhaging it 2, 3, 4 extra archers than he should with each of the clashes.
Yeah, indeed, getting pushed all the way back into his base. Now it's 14 Knights against 9, and we've talked about the Archer Ball here for Striker. It's currently numbering 25, the exact same number that he had like 5 minutes ago. That's a concern. He's never able to escalate his numbers, and now he's facing too many Knights.
Yeah, it feels like he's full on slipped here. And I mean, I wonder if a third TC may have been a more logical play because of the way that he kind of balances eco here. He's not able to afford to inflate himself further, right? And I'm still confused by that wood play on the east side. I mean, I don't understand why he was out there. Because, like, even though he gets his wood still, right? Like, one, there's no wooden fortress, so no buffed rates. And two, just think of the idle time of walking all the way out there.
Yeah, I'm puzzled just as much as you are. And it's also high risk. Like, you know you're up against French. You have to respect their opportunity or their ability to detach 1 or 2 Knights and just surprise you from any direction, really.
Yeah, and the reason this game is feeling very stagnant, like someone has a clear lead but doesn't push it, is still the scouting vision. They don't see what we know. We have God vision right now. DonArtie finally realizes he can push, though. This is critical. He's big, very big right now. Spears, archers, knights. He can beat out the army Striker even on the home field. TC5 is going to try to assist, but the amount of raw knights here, even in these choke points, it doesn't favor Striker anymore. The archer pool is getting too big for the French, and he's about to forfeit the entire army. In fact, he might end up forfeiting the game at this rate. He needs to clean up every knight he can to at least stop raids deeper. Otherwise, the buck will not stop here, and his whole economy is going to be exposed there.
It's just too much to handle, though. It's all about the pure knight numbers, French knights also being better than the ones of the Rus. And indeed, nothing left to stop this with. Knights can just rampage the eco of Striker now. He's not gonna tap out easily because he might be hoping to clean up these archers, but this is now a difficult situation.
They found the villagers. This is what I was waiting for. Like, ignore trades to the other archers. Go after the villager force. There's so much down here. You idle it all, you shut Striker down. DonArtie has a bigger economy. He can afford to replace these losses. Striker cannot. He's already been shortchanged, and that's why the remaining archers chase after the villagers. Heavy hit into Striker. He's not going to wave the white flag yet, as he will clean up the army, but there is no doubt now that he's playing from behind.
Yeah, he is. And off the back of this one, DonArtie might be flirting with the idea of going into Castle Age, and that could easily be a power spike. He still managed to keep a couple of his knights alive. He has shown potential to build up his knight mass pretty fast. So you could definitely think about going Castle Royal Institute or just doubling down on Feudal, actually. And it looks like that's the plan for him, queuing up even more knights.
It's tough to figure like the way Striker played these fights. I think Striker got boxed in several of these earlier fights. Like, the thing that I praise him for is he delayed the charge on the knights long enough that French knights weren't better. Remember, French knights, to be better than Rus knights, they have to get their charge. If they don't charge, no bonus damage. But it felt like every time Striker done that in the fights, thinking back to them, his archers weren't attacking spears. And I think that's why DonArtie was able to hold in these fights where he should have been at a disadvantage. It's credit to him, but also Striker kind of discredited himself. I think he got very tunnel visioned on one element of the French composition and completely forgot about the other.
Yeah, for a long time he didn't really face a ton of knights, and he just got tunnel visioned on going mass archers. For a long time it seemed like most of the fights that will be happening in the future will be without knights for either player, but then DonArtie comes in with the reinforcements of knights, and suddenly you're sitting there with only a handful of spearmen at your disposal and a bunch of archers to try and face French knights, and that just didn't work out for him. It all came down to those knight numbers.
Uh-oh. Okay, he got in. Now, I'm stand by the fact that was walled. It's just he chopped through it. But, like, notice how irrelevant this raid was compared to all the earlier raids, right? Like, DonArtie now has tempo, and he's about to have age up. And with that age up, like, this could escalate. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a Royal Institute play, because he's already at 10 knights. He could bump up to 20+. Royal Bloodlines would end this game.
For sure it will. In fact, I'm very curious at the landmark. Indeed, there comes the Royal Institute. Other side, Striker is also thinking about Castle Age. He's got 14 knights. The problem is that he's going to be delayed, and DonArtie can time this really well. DonArtie will time it in a way that he's going to strike just when Striker is going to get his upgrades. But by that time, DonArtie is going to have Royal Bloodlines, and that's going to be the big power spike. In fact, look at the gold bank for DonArtie. He's ready to start queuing that upgrade up the moment he hits Castle. And given the fact that Canto Settles is a rather cheap upgrade, he's also going to queue that up probably on the School of Cavalry.
Yeah, imagine being a Roost player now in the Knight situation where you're like, but I'm going to get Boy's Fortitude, but he has Royal Bloodlines. Like, you'd have to be an 8-year-old to think you're ahead. He's like, yeah, but my number's 20. Yeah, but he gets 30%. What's even a percentage? A percentage is big, folks. It's very big. Especially in a unit that has about 230 HP at this stage in the game.
Yeah, for sure it is. It is a massive boost. And the bigger problem is that Boyar's Fortitude, A, is going to take a ton of time. B, it's also pretty pricey on the gold cost. If you look at the gold bank of Striker.
It's more expensive.
Yeah.
It's more expensive, right, than the Raw Bloodlines, especially due to the Raw Institute discount.
Yeah, and if you look at the gold bank of Striker, he's got no gold to work with. When DonArtie reached Castle Age, he was floating 1,300 gold, so he could queue up those critical upgrades immediately. That's not going to be the situation for Striker. He just reached Castle Age, congratulations, but you simply can't afford the single most important upgrade that you would need to somehow try and survive this next push.
Yeah, chin up, Striker. If you can make Imperial Age, maybe Knight Sabers can turn it around, but I don't think you're getting that deep. Canted Saddles is also being primed, and that is a ridiculous pass back at the beginning of these charges. And you might not have a choice to skirt the charge anymore like you did earlier. You're running out of space. Walls at least going up from Striker. That has been his redeeming quality in this game. He's a very avid waller. You can see this boy came from an AoE2 background, respects the need to block paths.
Yeah, indeed, walls are up for the time being, but you see...
I mean, this is worse. It's worse because Raw Bloodlines is now going to kick in before the fight starts.
He doesn't even have Boyar's Fortitude queued up yet. Like, he's going to be caught completely off guard by this.
It legit wouldn't matter. Boy's Fortitude wouldn't save him from this. Charge is going to come in, and they're tanky Knights now. Striker should realize that he can't take this fight anymore. Fume are going to peel off to deal with the archers. And this clash is going to be incredibly one-sided. You can see the butchering is going to commence. Striker was trying to switch over to horse archers, but he can't really get them out quick enough. Even if you could, what would they do? These knights would just chase after villagers instead. Your front line isn't going to hold long. This time around, Striker might not be able to repel DonArtie. In fact, he can just go deeper and deeper with this push.
And he will. He knows fully well that there is nothing that Striker has to stop this. No upgrade on the HP on those knights for Striker. No crossbows. Horse archers nowhere to be found. 25 army against 42, but it's quality. That's the key word here for DonArtie.
It's quality and quantity, Lidakor. The numbers speak for themselves. All the knights are gone. Striker has no defense force anymore. Horse archers is not going to save him from this. DonArtie, what a way to turn this around. The early harassment, the mid-game by Striker looks so good, but DonArtie understood his timings well, was able to turn this one around and overwhelm Striker. I'm expecting the GG any second. I mean, he basically has 7 military pop cap left. Short of Wololoing the entire army, he has nothing left to play with.
Indeed, there it is. DonArtie secures game number 1 off the back of those French knights out there. Convincing game from him here, but a key thing, as you said, timing of that Castle Age and just leveraging the fact that you have a superior force, not just when it comes to numbers, but also when it comes to quality.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate for Striker, the way he kind of played that mid-aggression. I think he had a good read on the composition. I actually liked the way he leveraged Knights up against the French. And I don't say that often, because usually I favor the French, right? You know how I feel about Knights as a front liner against French. It just doesn't work, because those are better. But he kept baiting the charge out, and when the charge isn't there, the French are heavily discounted. The issue is just where his micro was at when it came to the spears. I think the spears were allowed to exist way too often in those fights, and that redeemed DonArtie. Great turnaround, though. Really good play from him, especially considering how rough that secondary TC was at the start of the game for him.
Yeah, indeed. It was a rough start for DonArtie, but then he recovered. And as you said, it came down to those fights in mid-game. Striker just felt like he thought that he's going to face no more French knights for the next, 5 or so minutes. He went very heavy on the archers, got surprised by DonArtie's knights, and from that point on, momentum was on the side of the Don.
So, Donstar taking the lead, something I think a lot of people would have expected. No offense against Striker, but
100% win rate day for the
deadly on this stream. Going to Lipany. Striker, he needs to break that win rate, otherwise he is going to be oust with no chance of making it to Heidelberg.
Indeed, spawning in on the right side is DonArtie with the Delhi Sultanate in blue. Left side, it is going to be Striker with the Abbasids in red. 2 Berry civilizations on road to Wall Lipany, with a relatively open northern side. and a rather cliff-staggered southern part.
This is a bit better, though. I think something that usually happens with these cliff spawns that was getting complained about, and I don't know if it got tweaked since then, is that they were spawning too close to people's bases, and people would just set up like a kind of siege point and blitz you down. These are far enough away that we don't get any kind of cheesy trebuchets on the high ground, but they could be leveraged in an interesting fashion. One thing I'm a big fan of with these type of generations is you sneak on the high ground and you build your rams if you want to go for that type of early play. And people don't see it. In fact, I think it was in the Lucifron de Muslim series the other week where Lucy was able to get a clear lead and end the game because he hid on the high ground building rams.
Indeed. That could be a possibility. Now, looking at the berry spots, it's actually as even as possible, and you really don't have any, like, super neutral berries if you take a look at the distribution. You can associate each berry patch with one of these players, so you have pretty well set up boundaries for each players, or pretty well set up trenches to dig, to be honest. It's pretty straightforward where you have to void yourself off to control the corresponding parts of the map.
I think Donster got a better spawn for TC booming, actually. Especially like north side. Deer plus berry plus gold and wood. Like, he could wall across there and condense himself in. I don't think he's going to rush the second TC, though. I'm expecting him to try and make this tempo aggressive. But if he does decide to go back for a TC layer, this is like, oh, this is c'est la magnifique. It doesn't get much better than this.
Indeed. Looks like a standard opening from DonArtie for the time being. So let's talk Sacred Sites, because that's one of the big differences between Lipany and Dry Arabia. We have seen this Civilization matchup on Dry Arabia twice today, and both cases, the Delhi won. On Dry Arabia, the distribution of the Sacred Sites are much more even, whereas for Lipany, oftentimes you get two Sacred Sites much closer to each other because of the cliffs. This time around, it actually is a very reminiscent Sacred Site spawn to Dry Arabia, almost equidistant from one another are the Sacred Sites. What does that mean for us going into Feudal Age?
Looking at the lay of the lands, I think there's some opportunities to still just wall these in. I think that the dynamic has changed with the Delhi, right? Like, I think similar to Dry Arabia, you don't try to wall choke points, you just wall the Sacred Sites. So he could still secure them, but hold the front door, Lidakor. Look what landmark it is. It's a Dome of Faith. I'm sorry, I just want to wake us up. I'm bored of all these Dome of Faiths, okay? One day.
You gotta believe, right? It's Dome of Faith, so you gotta believe that the alternative landmark is going to be taken. But no, not today. Too high stakes it is, although DonArtie is up one game, but he's the one that likes to just play the meta-style approach, doesn't want to go anything crazy here, especially because this is a great opportunity for him. Something we haven't talked about yet, he's at the round of 16th. If he wins this one, he moves on to the best of 5, round of 8, and then he's gonna have a chance to play in the best of 7 on Sunday, tomorrow, should he win that one, for a chance to play in the Heidelberg LAN. So he actually has realistic chances of qualifying right now, and he doesn't want to risk that by going for something that he may not feel very familiar with, like the Tower of Victory, for example.
I'm gonna call it now. I'm hyping up Tower of Victory so much today. Someone is gonna lose the finals tomorrow in a game where they built Tower of Victory.
It's possible. I just feel like
my hands up. That's how this goes, right? It's like it's a delayed caster curse. I'm peddling it too much at this point.
I just feel that no one is gonna have the balls to risk it. Like, sure thing, you could say high risk, high reward, but at the end of the day, everyone wants to qualify for Heidelberg. This is the last chance qualifiers after all. You really don't want to risk going for something insanely crazy, and as much as we have seen the potential in the Tower of Victory, it's very high risk, very high reward, and if you haven't specifically practiced that a lot, you really don't want to risk your game, possibly your set, by going for that.
But think about how much it'll throw off your opponent, Lidakor. Like
I mean, they might just, you know, accidentally type GG as they're laughing at you.
Do we hold them to... I think we should hold them to... If someone types GG, it is contractually binding. That's the... You know, that's actually that's a thing in a lot of scenes, by the way. So if you like BM type GG, you just GG'd your team out. Which I love, by the way, because I never got to see it in all my years of casters so far, but I guarantee somewhere in there, in a high-level game, someone BM GG'd, and then they got told that they lost the map.
You are saying that, but like it actually reminds me to a story from AoE2. I don't know if it was like a smaller tournament or just a ranked game, but we had an instance where one player just typed GG and the other one just thought, oh yeah, I won. And he just kind of tapped out of the game, especially because like the you won notification is not as flashy in AoE2 than it is in AoE4. So yeah, happened before in AoE2. Haven't seen it happen in AoE4 yet.
We've had a few games where a player actually is winning and they don't realize and they GG, but yeah, we haven't had it to that extreme yet. Anyway, looking at the open of this game, Striker has gone for the second TC, and it looks like he's stopping at 2. No FUD coming out. And I kind of get why, right? Like, there's not a great third TC location unless you go far out to the north, and daisy chaining that in is going to be a pain in the side.
Well, look at what DonArtie is doing. His build actually intrigues me a lot more. First of all, he's rolling in the sacred sites, usual Delhi stuff, but here's where it gets fun. He prioritized survival techniques on the mill, and he's on the hunt. So he's gonna have a pretty good food eco here, off the back of the berries and the hunt at the same time. And that could propel him to really good numbers, possibly better numbers than what you would normally expect from Delhi at this stage.
Don, get pro scouts. It's free, get it. He actually could, like, I've seen a few Delhi players do this now in the mid-game, actually. Because, like, if the deers aren't being taken by your opponent, you get it for free, right? Like, can you imagine you just passively get pro scouts in 5 minutes and then bring the third deer stack back? Oh.
Yeah, for sure. It's something, right? It's free. Why not take it? Speaking of free, though, the sacred site isn't gonna be free. One camel archer out there to harass that one scholar. Spearmen are nearby. They should be able to push this guy away, but that's all. Ooh,
but
he might doing it.
Ooh, no, he's paying attention. Just good thing he was as well, because that's a pricey unit to lose. We've seen the impact losing just 1 or 2 of these camel archers early can have. Archers are on the way from DonArtie, though, so this isn't going to be a free fight for Striker to take.
Yeah, nice value there. Horseman actually getting a lot of damage done on him. 1 HP goes down to the archers. It's a really good value here for the Don.
Yep, it's going to chase Striker away. Now, these camel archers, once you're up to about like 6, 7, maybe even 8 of these archers, all of a sudden it's very hard to contest. Remember what we saw earlier today, where the issue with camel archers is due to their crappy range. If you park spearmen between them and the archers, camels have no way of trading out ranged. They just die to them.
Yeah, and they are very pricey units. And every single one of these guys lost is a massive punch to the face. Like, you have to take down 4 or 5 spearmen from your opponent to make up for the cost of 1 camel archer. And it also takes a lot of time to train, so it basically means that you will be outnumbered when it comes to raw numbers. So really, losing every single camel archer is a tremendous punch in the face.
And look at this, Striker's even pushing spears. I don't think he realizes just how many archers DonArtie is committing to at this stage. I mean, if you knew, you definitely wouldn't need to push, but you would never dream of pushing spears here.
This is actually getting very reminiscent to the Delhi vs Abbasid game that we have seen previously. Same approach. No blacksmith here for the Delhi player. We'll just commit every single scholar he has to heal up the army, and we could see the same combo. Archer, spearmen, and just a direct push and heal them with the scholars could be as lethal as we have witnessed it to be in one of the previous games that we've cost.
So what you're saying is Artie is a very big Magic fan.
Well, he would definitely feel magical should he win this set and move on to the round of 8. So, yeah, definitely something to keep in mind, because I am concerned for Striker's army right now, and that's not something that I commonly say for an Abbasid player. His army doesn't look very promising right now as compared to what DonArtie is feeling.
I mean, it almost feels like Striker remembers in game 1 he didn't have enough spears, and now he's just making them in game 2. But they have, there's no reason. You could have 4 or 5 more horsemen instead, easily. And they'd actually be worth something, but this... I am having great doubts right now. I'm not really sure what the spearman play is about from Striker. Maybe he assumed it's going to turn into like a trifecta with all 3 unit types, but I think we're at least 3 or 4 minutes away from that, so this is just burn economy.
Yeah, I think he expected horsemen, and it's natural. So many times you see the Delhi play with that horseman, archer, and some spearman composition. Or, as you said, just a trinity of units, horsemen, spearmen, archers. But usually when that happens, you don't have scholars healing you because you play with blacksmith upgrades, so you commit your scholars to research, not healing. But when you have such a power of healing behind you, talk about 9 scholars, it's a different battleground. you don't need those tanky horsemen because even your standard low HP units, the spearmen and the archers, they can be kept alive so long thanks to those scholars.
Whoa. That was a heavy food drop. DonArtie just got everything he needed in the blink of the eye. He's going up with a compound of the defender as well. This could easily turn into keep drops on the sacred sites in the next few minutes. What a timing as well, with just 2 sacred sites. Meanwhile, Striker double down on military, yet I would still say DonArtie's army's better. Especially with the fact he's now getting free tech upgrades via the blacksmiths.
Yeah, indeed. It is going to be blacksmith upgrades plus a pretty substantial standing army right now for the Dawn. One thing that he wasn't really successful with, though, is capturing the sacred site to the south. So his economy is somewhat fragile, and that's something that he has to keep in mind. But he's going to be up to Castle Age, and he's just going to go double down on the knights, possibly even add 1 elephant, and then just wants to finish the game with a keep drop. This game, one way or another, is going to finish in the next 5 minutes.
I think you just build a few lances, you go raiding with them. Meanwhile, just use spears and archers in the main battle, right? Like, you don't want to justify all these spear investments out of Striker. Once these scholars getting a bit ambitious, thinking they could take on the world. Mistakes made there, but the coming minutes, we are going to be looking at swiftness as well as herbal medicine. These scholars are going to become infuriating and impossible to lock down for Striker, especially with his current comp. And another thing to consider, he hasn't started his tech up yet. It's going to take 2 minutes when he finally has the resources together. And as it stands right now, his military looks pitiful in comparison to DonArtie's.
Yeah, that's the scary part, and his expansion TC is very much to the front. So it is an easy target right now for DonArtie to push. Looks like the Dawn is now moving up indeed. He already has the numbers advantage, but critically, he's going to have men-at-arms and lancers to support his army with.
Lancer is going to go down, Spear's going to spread out a little. Scholars are going to move forward to heal
Not
the
a good
front
fight.
line, but looks like they were AFK on the backside. DonArtie wasn't paying attention. Scholars are going to back up, but they're going to be sniped down. There's enough archers here to clean them up. So a decent fight for Striker in the end. DonArtie was being distracted by the raids on the backside.
Yeah, he was. Well, all the spearmen are now gone, and Lancer is still standing strong, so you're gonna have something to soak up arrow fire with, and DonArtie, he's creeping closer and closer towards the enemy base. Now, the concerning part for him is that he went with the compound of the defender, but he's yet to start adding additional towns, or castles rather, or even just start mining stone. So, as much as he went for that landmark, he's very far away from being able to capitalize on it, and this is buying a tremendous amount of time here for Striker.
Feels like he's heavily burdened everywhere else economically, right? He needs all this gold and food, so he can't afford the villages elsewhere. I mean, we have to remember that Striker's got a lot more flex with his village account, especially when DonArtie has to keep contesting this. The horsemen have been raiding on the flanks because the walls never went up, and yeah, I'm worried about it too, Vodka. I don't think he's going to realize that corner is not clear. That it can actually be flanked.
And we talked about this one. The eco of DonArtie is rather feeble. We're talking about 43 villagers and only 1 sacred site working for him. He has 1 relic banked up, he's bringing back 2, but right now his economy, it's not terrifying. And if you look at Striker, we're looking at 71 villagers with the boost of the House of Learning, the Golden Age. And at this point, Striker is really starting to come online with the Abbasids. I feel like the window to strike is closing quite rapidly here for DonArtie because Striker is more than ready to play this one here in Castle.
The problem for Artista is he's waiting on those upgrades still. The archeries, they're not upgraded. His archers are just normie in Feudal Age right now. The men-at-arms are at least starting to come out, but as you mentioned before, compound defender, right? So he's not getting any additional value out of Lancer plus men-at-arms. He is at least getting the relics. 3 already being banked, 2 sacred sites as well. This is a lot of gold trickle, pretty healthy state of the economy. Deceives the numbers a little, right? Like, it's definitely still an eco lead for Striker, but it's not as big as it looks when you look at the raw pop cap there.
It gets worse for DonArtie. As Vodka pointed out, the archer upgrade was actually queued behind numerous archers in the range. Oh, no. He just now started researching it.
All right, that's going to heavily delay him, but he's going to go over the archers anyway. He needs to try and punish this after he sees the tech up. We'll snipe a few villages as he dives deeper. I know Striker is waiting for the tech ups before he takes the fight, and that's also going to buy time for Striker to get the crossbows out to counter the incoming men-at-arms. Archers will trade for the time being, but without the veteran upgrade, they don't last as long. So many spears that need to be dressed, and also, where are all the scholars for DonArtie? He's got 11 in total. They must be at home getting the upgrades, but that means that your front line isn't going to hold for long.
Yeah, he's trying to do 2 things at the same time, but neither of them are working. he's not having the scholars on the battlefield to try and facilitate the push, but he's also not having all of the scholars back at home to get the upgrades as fast as possible, and he's kind of getting caught in between now, desperately trying to add men-at-arms into a fight that will now feature camel archers, crossbows as well. His numbers no longer splendid. In fact, if you look at the army numbers, Striker is closing the gap.
It's looking a bit ugly now. Archers have finally been upgraded. It took a little bit longer than maybe was anticipated originally, and that's going to be a big difference maker. But second wave coming in, DonArtie is now gathering hard on stone. He realizes what he needs to turn this game around. He's looking for a keep drop, but it means he has to hold the front line, because the key detail on that keep drop is you need to be able to reach the Abbasid base first.
Yeah, it's coming too little too late. He's got 40 army against 36, and an even trade is insufficient. He can no longer drop that keep because he's just falling behind in numbers.
Hold on, honey. Flash coming in again. It's mainly just archer comp now for Striker. The crossbows are slowly coming out. DonArtie could try to switch into a Mangonel play here, but it's so difficult to do against the Abbasids due to how quickly they can counter with a Springald.
Yeah, and the thing is that your window is closing rapidly. Look at that choke point even. Beautiful place to hold here for the crossbows to pick off the men-at-arms, and just insufficient scholars to heal here. Only 3 on the battlefield once again.
DonArtie, when are we getting the archer upgrade? That's the difference here. Imagine that these are vet archers attacking this whole time. They're still not upgraded.
Yeah, he just started queuing up again. Something happened to that archer upgrade.
He cancelled it about 3 minutes ago and then never re-queued. Now we're 4 minutes away from getting veteran archers.
Wait, that range is not connected to the mosque. That's what's happening.
Oh, good lord, it's getting worse and worse. Hold me, Lidakor, I don't know what you do here. Actually, I know what you do. Don has one move in his bag, in his repertoire. It's time to go hard and fast with the keep drops.
He needs to. He needs to kind of kamikaze keep drop this. He might have a window here because his army is still at least comparable to his opponent's one, but it's now or never for him.
It's going to force a fight. Striker has to come out and play. These amount of archers and lancers here to meet him. Men-at-arms are going to clash. That's going to hold him at bay. Now remember, the camel archers will have to get a lot closer to try and strike other villagers. So it looks like the keep is successfully going to go up. And actually, this fight is not looking too bad right now for Artie, especially considering he's going to be parked here ready to play with the castle.
Yeah, this is a pretty good fight. He's picking off most of the spears before the knights charge in. And you see, first keep goes up. There's going to be a follow-up keep behind this one. Or will we? Oh, it's going to be for Trebs.
Yeah, exactly. Treb's going to follow. Archers also do see the villagers. A knight got around the backside. That's a heavy dose of idle eco. And also, both of your backup wood lines are now not safe. Striker's going to have to migrate to the north side where it's walled up, which means more idle time as you walk across the map.
And it's a concern. He's actually rather low on wood, and this is going to slow him down quite a bit. And it's going to make it difficult to add Springalds, something that he may need to try and snipe those trebuchets, because the Don, he's going for the traps over here, even empowering the archer range, so that, or the siege workshop rather, to get the traps out as fast as possible.
Exactly, and he's going to get rid of the infrastructure. He actually goes straight after the House of Wisdom. Feels like he's on the clock. DonArtie is about to get enough stone for another keep. Could try to sneak it in on top of the TC. Could even think about dropping on the southern sacred site to protect this win condition, because that timer is ticking down. 8 minutes until a DonArtie victory.
Yeah, that's the big thing. That's the timer we have to talk about, actually. Because right now, DonArtie is just channeling the doctrine of offense being the best defense. He has the 3 sacred sites under his control, the countdown going on, but Striker can't afford to spend a single unit on decapping those because he needs to keep his forces back at home to hold off an assault on his base.
The tough part is Striker needs to raid. That's the way he can slow this down. But he has no raiders. Look at his army comp. It's all static. He has to take a direct fight. He's up against a massive archers. Funnily enough, Striker hasn't even built a single Mangonel. Now he has to build trebuchets instead. This means he's not getting the counter in place, and DonArtie is going for the jugular. In with a keep drop. He knows he cannot be contested right now. And this will give him the foothold he needs to close it out. DonArtie already up to 3 trebuchets. And it looks like Striker might be curtains closed soon. Finally getting the first of the sprills out. But what are they going to do here? You can't go past the keeps, and the Trebs have superior range.
Where's Striker's army? He had nothing sent here to stop that keep with. He just gave up on that position.
They've just been sitting south side because he's paranoid about the Lancers coming in. But now as a result of that, your positioning out of place gives DonArtie the entrance point. 4 trebuchets, House of Wisdom on fire, and remember, it's the Abbasids. Only 2 landmarks to get a win.
And there's a keep right next to both of those. So repairing is a challenge because your villagers will be picked off instantly. And now you can creep up with those traps. Finding an angle is gonna be impossible here for Striker to hit those traps from. House of Learning now goes down, or House of Wisdom rather. And that also just eliminates the fire armor here, eliminates Golden Age. This is looking a lot better for DonArtie than we thought.
Sometimes you get Don Fi, sometimes you get what I call the Artista though. Don Artista has turned up today. Brilliant move to turn it around. It was starting to look like a slippery slope for him. But before you know it, he just oils up the ramp and watches Striker slide on down into despair. He can't repair it. He can't do it quick enough. It's 5 trebuchets now.
He has to. He's going to lose his second landmark and it's going to be over.
It's done. I think Striker just feels lost right now. He hasn't called GG, but he knows it is over. DonArtie grasping at victory, will take it 2-0. He'll move through. Striker will not be able to make it to Heidelberg.
What an all-in here from DonArtie. It looked so grim for him, but that first keep, getting up, that was a big one. Gave himself foothold, and then I just loved how aggressive he went on the trebuchets. Not 1, not 2, but 5. This was an all-in here of DonArtie, and it was gorgeously orchestrated. Had a scholar inside that siege workshop to just mass-produce the traps as much as possible. Really nailed the timing element of this one, knowing that he doesn't have more than a couple of minutes to capitalize on this one, and he caught Striker before Striker had the chance to react, and in the end, takes game number 2 here in a terrific fashion, moves on to the round of 8, increasing his chances even further to possibly get himself a ticket to Heidelberg as a player.
Yes, sorry, getting closer and closer to Mr. Donster. I just noticed in chat, it's like, I love how the casters felt like it looked grim, even though I felt ahead the entire game. Look, buddy, we all feel it looks grim when we watch that Archer timer on the upgrade for veterancy taking about 10 minutes instead of maybe the 4 it should have. But you definitely played it well. It was very good dive deep. He got a pristine keep placement. Striker maybe gave a little bit too much ground over considering that tech upgrade was missing for so long. And I think another interesting detail here, Striker never really got into the Mangonels, which was somewhat surprising. Maybe it's a little bit too risky against the Lancers, but when you see your opponent has this many archers, if the archers are gone, surely Don can't easily move in for these keep drops. Doesn't take anything away from Artie though. Great play by him. Striker just unable to play the map the way